14th of August 2022, episode 30 of This and That and Warafa. Well, it was an adventure up to here. But the news waits for nobody, and every day there is something else that we can laugh about, worry about, or become angry about. So this one starts off with an old favorite for the politicians, especially for the politicians, and it is called racism. We as black people, we are never going to be successful, not because of you white people, but because of other black people. It's a dirty, dark secret. You know, when there are young black kids doing well in school, the loser kids tell them, "Oh, you're acting white." For some reason, we are brainwashed to think if you're not a thug or an idiot, you are not black enough. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. The next table is applicable to South Africa. And if you take a good look at that table, there's a story there. The percentages tells the story. 7.7% of the population is white. But there's something like 176 laws on the books that discriminate directly against whites. Laws to prevent whites from taking active and free participation in the economy. And that has cost the South African society a lot. That 7% you see there provides most probably 90% of the employment opportunities in this country. My question is, that 81% black African males, where are the businesses that they are building? Where are the employment opportunities that they provide? I can tell you this, that is the source of most of the racism that you see on social media, and they are oblivious of the fact that the numbers are against them. But that's the world we live in. And then there was this tweet. No white person wants to rule South Africa. Why? South Africa needs brute force, no-nonsense, hardcore policing with dire consequences for criminals, and black South Africa would never accept that. It is actually frightening if you think about it, and it is sad at the same time. And what else? You must get this response. In other words, bring back apartheid, because we know who that brute force will be directed at. There is no need for brute force, just enforcement of existing laws. Now, that tweet is full of contradictions in any case, but what really pissed me off is apartheid. They cannot exist if they don't have something to blame for their own failures. And if I look at that image, that person is too young to really know about apartheid. And then there's a lot of truth in this. We are too different, hence we have different things. Most multicultural countries are dysfunctional because when you speak the truth, you are either accused of racism, tribalism, or xenophobia. So we are always trying to be politically correct so we don't hurt people. And that is the truth. And I think the problem that we are sitting with in South Africa is nobody can really speak the truth. Because if you just say something, the first thing these IQ 70 Twitter warriors try to do is they want to see if they find any racism in it, and if they can't find racism in it, they blame it on apartheid. Losers, that is what they are. And then there's this one. They don't want to rule because everything they try and maintain law and order it will call racist. But I can assure you, if they did, the country would be restored to its former glory. Not do it alone, but with all races. Affirmative action must go and be replaced by the right person for the job. And that is the truth. But, once again, the truth will not be promoted. And then these words. Too many black people are either forgiving of mediocrity, either they condone it to defend a specific point at any cost, or they're just indifferent of it. Rational thinking is secondary to them. I'm not tweeting this out of hate, but for the too many that need to read it. And the sad part is, those that really should read that are too stupid to understand what he is saying. And then we get back to the hate Russia shit. Lithuania threatened to strip citizens for ice skating performance. The legislation has been penned by Lithuanian MPs to punish naturalized citizens who support aggressors and in that way poses a threat to Lithuania, after Moscow-born Lithuanian citizen was due to perform in Sochi. I cannot understand these people. And once again, Lithuania. I heard a story somewhere today. Apparently, the total population of Lithuania is more than in a small city in Russia. But these people, they find themselves all jacked up with some false sense of performance or false sense of importance or power or what. Because that warmongers down in the shithouse is pushing them to do stupid things like this. And more Russia hate. UK Institute apologizes for citing Russian nationality. A UK cancer research facility has apologized for telling a student that her PhD application had been rejected because she is Russian. This could actually be a what the fuck. But this is what they are doing. But Europe is busy digging their own grave at a tremendous speed. And then we go to the Ukraine and we see more of this Russian hate. Another monument of the Soviet classic was demolished in Ukraine, and Maxim Gorky got it again. The bust of novelist was demolished by a tractor in Alexandria, Kirovograd region, as reported in social networks. This is the typical actions of barbarians. Barbarians, that's it. You can't describe it in any other way. This is what the black barbarians in South Africa is also doing to white monuments and historical sites. They do the same thing. It's because they are barbarians. Fucking barbarians. That is what they are. And then we get to Russia. Kadyrov, that's the guy from Chechnya. An armed conflict between the Russian Federation and NATO is quite real because of the demands of Western countries to intervene with NATO in the conflict in Ukraine. In this case, our brothers are ready and NATO will suffer a crushing defeat. And that's the truth. People must stop ignoring it. The fight in Ukraine is Russia against NATO. Ukraine is the proxy and Ukraine provides the cannon fodder. And then we go to Syria. They cry crocodile tears over Ukraine while they illegally occupy 1/3 of Syria and steal more than 80% of its oil output per day. And who is the they? Who else? The United States. This is what they do. This is what they do all over the world. And then we're in Europe. The longest river in France is the Loire. They write that there has not been such a drought in Europe for the last 500 years. Future wars will be wars for drinking water. Russia has the largest reserves of fresh water. Baikal alone is the source of 1/4 of all fresh water reserves on the planet. Honest to God, I never see anything like this in my life in Europe. It doesn't look good. And now we're in the UK. The UK has not built a new reservoir for over 30 years, when at the time the population has risen by around 10 million people. Just like with the energy supply, the infrastructure in this country under both major political parties has been in shambles. And this is the truth. My generation's people, the people of my generation, were the biggest builders of infrastructure here in South Africa and in Europe. They were the people that made it possible for countries to grow and prosper. And then the professional politicians took charge. And it was all ideas and shit for brain stories and nothing practical. They didn't build dams, they didn't extend the power grids, nothing. They rode on what was there and they chased their dreams. And look at where we are today. Britain is spending billions of pounds in Ukraine, but its own citizens are struggling. They don't have money to build infrastructure in their own country, and the United States is exactly the same thing. Their roads are going for shit, their bridges are falling apart, there's no border control, but yet they can pump billions into Ukraine. Something is wrong and something must give. And then there's this one. A local MP questioned if the closure of the desalination plant in East London was because they aren't willing to pay and run it. And that is most probably the answer, because they rather piss that money out in Ukraine than to spend it on their own infrastructure. Parts of Britain ration water as drought officially declared. Shops in the UK are reportedly rationing water bottles amid unbearable heat as the government declared drought in parts of England. Yes. And we just spoke about it now. Where are the dams? Where are the provision? Why is that desalination plant closed? There, ask those questions and then ask why the hell are they pumping billions of pounds into the Ukraine. And then this is a little bit disturbing. It's a long thing. I'm not going to read all of it. Britain plans a series of terrorist attacks and sabotage in Russia and Belarus. The main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defence of Ukraine, together with the British intelligence service MI6, is preparing a number of special operations on the territory of Russia and Belarus. Now, all I'm going to say, this type of shit is what will get Britain turned into ashes. And more from Britain. Liz Truss. People must be able to speak freely and freedom of speech must be defended, says the official of a country that has put Julian Assange behind bars for telling the truth about the US war crimes in Iraq. And that is 100% on point. This woman, I nearly used the B word, made this virtue signaling tweet about Sir Salman Rushdie. Now we're in the Ukraine. The West is shipping arms to Ukraine, and American and EU leaders keep discussing more supplies of tanks and planes instead of peaceful solutions. Military aid provided to Ukraine don't change the course of the conflict and only increases the number of deaths among civilians and soldiers. Why the ongoing fighting in Ukraine is the fault of years-long policy of the West and a boon for the American defense industry. And that is the truth. MIC is the only crowd that is making money like hell. Plus, of course, the money that is siphoned off to the corrupt politicians all over the show. And that's it. But I've asked the question many times, where are the diplomats? And then this was a video that I saw on Telegram. And it is a full-blown movie set in Kiev, where they are making all their propaganda movies. It is scary what's going on. Ukrainian fake news. This is how they make a stage video about the allegedly cruel actions of the Russian troops. For fuck's sakes. And then we've got this. Hand over. How to convey this? Teleportation or what? And bridges, tunnels, railways, when will Russia bomb? The Slovak Ministry of Defense announces a transfer to Kiev of 4 Susanna II propelled artillery mounts. I cannot understand it. I cannot believe how Europe is willingly disarming themselves. And then we've got this, and it was that USA representative at the UN on her trip to Africa. African nations are free to buy grain from Russia, but could face consequences if they trade in US-sanctioned commodities such as Russian oil, the US ambassador to the United Nations said on Thursday. Countries can buy Russian agricultural products, including fertilizer and wheat, Linda Thomas-Greenfield said. But she added that if a country decides to engage with Russia where there are sanctions, then they are breaking those sanctions. And where the fuck does she come off from instructing Africa and telling Africa where to buy what from who and how? This American arrogance must stop. And this is the same story. Our sanctions against Russia are intended to discourage the Russians from continuing their aggression in Ukraine. And I would caution African countries not to engage with a country sanctioned by the United States. And again, my words to her is she must just piss off. Where the hell does she get the right to do that? And this is exactly this type of activities and actions and things that she is saying here, why Africa as a whole basically don't want any part of the US. And then we get to that what a fuck moment. We will improve our response time sooner or later. We want to be as quick as those guys who sit inside ATMs and give you your money when you make a withdrawal. And those words of wisdom from our Minister of Police. What the fuck is that? We want to be as quick as those guys who sit inside the ATMs and give you your money when you make a withdrawal. I cannot believe it. This is beyond what a fuck. In any case, please like, subscribe, share, and thank you for your support.